our award-winning What's My Line panel. First, the popular Broadway columnist, Miss Dorothy Kilgallen.
Thank you, and on my left, my distinguished sidekick, who is very funny but refuses to give me any humorous lines to say about him, Mr. Fred Allen.
Well, Dorothy, I'm sorry. I haven't any funny lines to say about myself, actually. But at my left, ladies and gentlemen, a very attractive young lady who has a new definition of a psychiatrist. She says a psychiatrist is the next man you start talking to after you start talking to yourself. And here she is, Miss Arlene Francis.
I never said any such thing.
And it wasn't funny, too. Dorothy was right. It wasn't funny.
And on my left, a gentleman whose Encyclopedia of American Humor has sold over 100,000 copies. Imagine. And it's the funniest book I ever read, too. Mr. Bennett, Cerf.
Thank you.
You stagger me, Arlene. You just stagger me. Well, you've all heard about that movie called The Girl in the Red Velvet Swing. It's my pleasure to introduce to you now our suave and incomparable panel moderator, who we call the man with the red velvet whip, Mr. John Charles Daly.
Thank you, Bennett. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to What's My Line. And, panel, we're up to some tricks tonight, so will you be kind enough to put on your masks?
Oh, no.
Once again tonight...
Ruins my hair, dude.
Glue it on harder. Once again tonight, we're up to the usual very pleasant business of having some nice people with very interesting occupations here to visit us. In the case of our first guest, there is an identification factor involved, and because of it, we've asked the panel to please put on their masks. We'll also have a famous guest challenger a bit later on, but now, if the masks are all in place, are they, panel?
Yes, Mr. Daly.
The masks are? Okay, fine. Will you come in then, first challenger, and sign in, please? Fine. Now, panel, I think it's fair to tell you that there's a matter of identification here, perhaps in sound and sight, so that we're not going to let you have the name of our first challenger. I will, however, to be helpful, ask our challenger if he will tell us where he's from.
New York.
New York. Fine. That's splendid. Come on over and sit down with me. Now, I don't know whether you were here earlier. There was a wonderful joke about what a psychiatrist is. Did you hear that one?
Yes, I did.
Fine. Well, now, while you're laughing... I'll ask you if you know how we score this operation.
Yes, I do.
If you know how we score it, there's nothing left to do but to let the folks at home and our friends here in the theater know exactly what your line is. All right, panel. I will tell you that our guest is self-employed, and let's begin the general questioning with Dorothy Kilgallen.
Do you, when you're doing your work, wear something other than an ordinary business suit?
Miss Dorothy, there's a question here. I think that we would like clarification from you. Do you mean as a standard...
Oh, John, you know perfectly well what I mean. I mean what you're wearing right now, let's
I mean,
say.
you mean something extreme? Because the point that our guest has raised is that after all of us, when we're doing our work at some time or another, might, for instance, be in shirt sleeves, we might have on a sport coat, we might have on a business suit, you know. Do you mean something extreme other than ordinary business clothes?
I mean something other than the gray flannel suit.
Well, it's a nice day, don't you think, it's Oh, wow, it's been a grand day. I will say this, that we will give you the answer yes and no to that question. The gray flannel suit is possible, but not necessarily always worn while the work is done.
I've never done it in a business suit.
Well, that clarifies my thinking considerably. Do you ever wear anything on your head or on your face when you're working?
Nope.
1 down and 9 to go, Mr. Allen.
Do you work for a profit-making organization?
Well... I would...
And I don't mean the government, because that's not a profit-making organization.
No, well, our guest is self-employed, and to the degree that there is an excess of income over outgo, we'll say it's profit-making so that he works for a profit-making organization.
He does work. Well, then I'm through, am I not?
I wouldn't say that, Fred.
I don't mean... I don't mean permanently. I just meant as time flies by.
What was your question, Fred?
I've forgotten, John.
All right.
You confuse me with my mask off when it's on. I'm just hopelessly at your mercy here.
But you haven't started talking to yourself yet.
Is our guest here involved in any of the sports?
No.
That's 2 down and 8 to go, Miss Francis.
Are you a professional man?
Yes.
Are you in any part of the entertainment world?
Yes.
Will
Broadly
you do be that
speaking-
you were entertaining?
No, broadly speaking, I would say that our guest has a relationship to the entertainment world.
Do you appear before audiences?
No.
3 down and 7 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Well, who do you entertain?
His wife.
Must be a hermit.
This is the intimate theater.
He's a bird watcher.
Is it my turn now?
Yes. I'm through, too, Jim.
We're all through, Bennett.
Thank you.
Everybody's through.
Now, you say you do not appear before audiences, and yet we have to wear masks. Does that mean that if we didn't wear our masks, people on this panel would recognize you?
I think so, yes.
Is that because any of us have any particular connection with you or have had in any way?
That could be the reason.
I hope it's me.
The voice sounds awfully familiar to me, but I must admit I can't place it at the moment. Are you in some kind of professional... Are you a professional man?
Yes, that was asked.
That was asked and you
yes.
are.
Could we have a
Is it-
definition of professional man again?
Yes, a man who's employed.
Yeah. Are you in one of the creative arts?
Yes.
Could you be a writer of some kind?
Yes.
Is that why we would know you? Would we know you as a writer?
Yes.
Do you write plays?
Yes.
You hesitate. Do you also write other things?
Yes.
Do you write books?
Yes.
You're an author?
Let's say he's a professional man. He's employed.
Yes.
Why, are you playing are you a random...
The answer to Arthur was
Yeah. Have you ever written a book that Random House has published?
no.
4 down. Fell into the trap. Bennett, we love you. You fell into our trap. 4 down and 6 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Have you written a play that's playing on Broadway now?
Do I have a play on Broadway now? No.
That's 5 down and 5 to go, Mr. Allen.
Have you written a book that is a bestseller at the moment?
Yes, sir.
Did you formerly work for me a number of years ago?
Okay, Fred.
Did you? Herman Wouk.
Herman Wouk is right.
John, the only reason he isn't working for Random House, not my fault.
I know it is.
Well, when Fred asked that question about a profit-making organization, I should have said I used to work for one.
Well, I used to be one, formerly.
I think we should lay it on the carpet right now that Herman Wouk is, of course, the author of Marjorie Morningstar, currently a very great bestseller, but he also wrote earlier The Caine Mutiny, which I dare say is known through the length and breadth of our land. But his real claim to fame is that he worked with Fred Allen for, what, 8 years, I guess,
5
wasn't
years,
it?
yeah.
5 years, was it? Worked with Fred
When
Allen.
Herman came out of Columbia with Arnold Auerbach, Herman and Arnold worked for me for, I guess, until you went in the Navy.
Yes, from 36 to 41, Fred.
And
Fred,
someday you may work for him.
I'm looking forward to it. The day is not far away, I'm sure.
Herman, we've got to get in a plug for the book. the latest Marjorie Morningstar. How many copies have you sold so far?
Well, I don't know. The last figure was 150,000.
Doing better than you,
Meaning
Bennett.
nothing personal.
We could get a camera on Bennett now. You get a look at his sick publisher because it's not his book.
It's a wonderful book. I read it when we went to Europe. I took it with me.
Fred, we
That's
want to play a trick on you now. Can you recall now and
Yes.
instantly any joke that Herman wrote when he was working with you?
Well, Herman wrote primarily the sketches in the show, the plots for the sketches, and then he interviewed the strange people that we had many years ago, long before this program started. We used to interview...
You mean the other strange people?
Yes. There's a fly here, John. I think it's from that man who was half a horse last week.
Well, Herman, all I can say is that we've had a lot of fun with your visit. I hope you enjoyed being here with us, and I would not like to deny...
He's supposed to call me up when he was at Fire Island. Now I finally see him on the program after all these months. I'll make a date now.
Well, I heard you were busy writing your autobiography, Fred,
I am.
so I would let you alone. Finish
But
it.
I didn't work for 2 years, so I took off the empty chapters, and I'm sitting around waiting to those.
Herbert, thanks very much. Will you say hello to the panel? It's nice to have had you with us. All right, panel, now, without any masks, let's see what you can do in the game known as What's My Line. Will our next challenger come in and sign in, please? Our next challenger, come in and sign in, please. We'll be back. Yoo-hoo. Where is our next... Here. Would you sign in right here, please? You may use one of our biggest and best pieces of chalk. Charlotte Whitten, is that right? Can you tell us where you're from?
Canada.
From Canada. Well, it's very nice to have somebody from Canada with us. We'd like to give the panel a sort of halfway running start and let them get a close look at the people about whose occupation they have to guess. So would you be kind enough to walk down in front of the panel for me, please?
What part of Canada, Miss Whitten?
Ottawa.
How are you?
All right, and now will you come over here, please, and sit down next to me? Is it Miss or Miss? Mrs. or Miss, rather?
Oh, miss, I've made enough mistake.
Thank you, Miss Whitten. Do you know how we score this operation?
Think so.
Fine. Every time you can give them that no answer, I'll flip a card. Well, let's let the folks at home and our friends here in the theater know exactly what your line is. All right. Panel, I will tell you that Miss Whitten is salaried, and we'll begin the general questioning with Fred Allen.
Do you work in Canada, Miss Whitten?
Yes, and how?
Do you deal in services?
Yes.
Are your services available for men and for women?
Yes.
They are. You apparently don't enjoy your work very much, huh?
Sometimes.
Do these people come to you for these ministrations that you vend?
Sometimes.
They do come to you?
Sometimes.
They don't have to come to you. Does she deal in absent treatment, John?
No, I would say this, Fred. Actually, Miss Whitten, I think, means that it is true that on occasion, Miss Whitten may go out in the process of performing her service. On the other hand, it's equally true that in many instances, those
John.
who receive the service come to her.
John, may I say something while you're getting your second wind?
Sure.
What became of chlorophyll?
It turned green.
Joined Lucky Strike, went through a green of Lucky Strike. No, I was just whether Whitten has a Lucky Strike Green, never came back from the war, you know. It was one of the casualties. I wondered if Miss Whitten had an office. That's what I was trying to get at.
Yes.
You do work in an office. You're not involved in a medical capacity, are you?
No.
You're
That's
not.
one down and 9 to go, Miss Francis.
Do you need a formal education for your kind of work, Miss Whitten? Or do you do your work informally?
Well, I would...
No.
No, you don't need it. Actually, I would say that it is true in many instances a formal education would certainly be beneficial, but the record is replete with many, many instances where a formal education has
Really?
not been had for the performance of this particular function.
I thought.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, that's 2 down and 8 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Miss Whitten, you say you come from Ottawa. That is the seat, I believe, of the Canadian government, is it not?
Yes.
Do you work for the Canadian government?
No.
Oh, dear.
3 down and 7 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Are you connected in any way with an important man?
Important man?
No, she's single.
Swarm of them.
What do you mean by an important man, Miss Dorothy?
Well, you know, a tycoon or an executive or an important official of some company.
I would think in the context of the question, with Miss Whitten's permission, we will give a no answer. That would be 4 down and 6 to go, Mr. Allen.
In these services, do you touch the people at all? Do you put your hands on them in any way?
No.
No, I wouldn't think so. 5 down and 5 to go, Miss Francis. I'm going to give you one more
in
minute.
any way work for the city of Ottawa?
Yes.
Would you be considered a person who was kind of head of the city? By
Yeah.
that, I mean, would you have a position where you would have to kiss babies on certain days and march in parades? I'm thinking of a job like the mayor of the city or the...
Really?
Yes, Miss Whitten has allowed us heretofore to be very informal, and I would now like to present her worship, Miss Charlotte Whitten, the mayor of the city of Ottawa, the first woman, I believe, to hold that high office, the capital city of...
Yes, and I believe that Miss Whitten did have a formal education.
Yes. And I've never kissed a baby, and I'm in my 3rd term.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you very much, Miss Whitten. I hope you enjoy the lecture. And now we come to the special feature of the program, the appearance of our mystery celebrity, for which tonight, once again, my friends are asked to blindfold themselves. Are the blindfolds all in place, panel?
Yes,
Mr.
Mr. Daly.
Yeah. Will you come in, mystery challenger, and sign in, please? Panel, as you know, in the case of our mystery challenger, we use a different form of questioning. You ask one question at a time in turn, moving clockwise, and we'll begin the questioning with Arlene Francis.
Who's having a coughing spell. I can't see to pass you the water. I'm sorry.
Are you part of the entertainment world?
Yes.
Yes, my voice has changed.
You might be the mayor of Ottawa next year.
You are in the entertainment world. Have you ever performed your services in the vicinity of Hollywood, California?
Yes.
Miss Kilgallen?
Have you ever performed on the other side of the ocean? Atlantic.
Yes, I have.
Mr. Allen?
Are you a leading man? I don't mean about the life that you're doing, but I mean...
That's hard to say.
I would think, Fred, within our terms of reference, most certainly. Miss Francis?
Have you appeared in the theater?
Have you appeared in the theater?
Yes.
Oh, jolly good.
Mr. Cerf?
Are you currently on the Broadway boards?
Yes.
Miss Kilgallen?
Oh. Are you playing a character part on the Broadway boards?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Are you in a musical show?
No.
1 down and 9 to go, Miss Frances.
Well, I hope you're in a hit. Are you in a dramatic show?
Yes.
Mr.
Both
Cerf?
ways.
What
It
you
is a
say?
hit and it is dramatic.
Yes, both ways. It's both a hit and dramatic. Mr. Cerf?
Let's see. Anne Frank?
That's not Anne
Bridge?
Frank.
No, it's not Anne Frank.
Don't forget, Bennett, after you start
Is it-
talking to yourself, the next man
I'm
you're going to talk to will...
I'm thinking myself. Would you be in a presentation that has 2 different acts, 2 bills in one show?
Yes.
You're Van Heflin.
Right. Oh, wow. Here, Van disguising his voice, and I kept thinking, wow, he's got a play. If he does this much
That's
longer,
a
there'll be no
foul,
play
John.
left. Huh?
That's a foul because Bennett answered 2 questions. That's a foul, and it's disqualified. Mr. Van Heflin has to leave, and
Mr. Allen,
I have to leave. I
agree
know.
with you 100%, and Mr. Cerf is fined 25 cents. Right now.
Good.
Right now. Hold on.
I was so happy. I thought it was either Joe Showcrout or you.
I think we better mention that it's View from
View
the
from
Bridge.
the Bridge.
And that it's
Arthur
Arthur Miller's
Arthur
very
Miller's
fine
and
play.
a very great hit for which we're all happy, Van.
Thank
nice
you
to have
so
you
much.
with us. All right. All right, fine. Let's panel see what you can do with another challenger, and you'll have a very short time to do it. Let's ask our challenger to come in and sign in, please. Relly Weinreb, is that right? Where are you from?
From Brooklyn.
From Brooklyn? Good. Will you look at the panel? Panel, you look at, is it Miss or Mrs.? Mrs. Weinreb, and you come over here and sit down next to me, if you will. And do you know how we score this operation?
Yes.
Very well. If you know that, let's let the people at home, people here in the theater, know exactly what your line is. All right, panel. You're going to have a minute and a half to see how quickly you can guess this particular occupation. We will tell you that Mrs. Weinreb is self-employed and begin the general questioning with Mr. Bennett Cerf.
Mrs. Weinreb, there's a touch of Middle Europe about you. Vienna or Berlin or something like that. Am I right?
Hungarian.
That's 1 down and 9 to go. Miss Kilgallen.
That'll help you a lot.
Mrs. Weinrell, is there a product involved in what you do? Yes. Is it a useful product? Yes. Can it be used by both men and women? Yes. Is it found in the home? Yes. Is it ever found outside the home? Yes. Is it smaller than a telephone booth? Yes. Is it larger than a box you'd get a bracelet in? Sometimes. Oh, then excuse me. It comes in a variety of sizes? Yes. Is it consumed? No.
That's 2 down and 8 to go, Mr. Allen.
Is it something that's manufactured?
Yes.
Is it manufactured of metal? Is it made of metal?
Well, there's a very little metal in. Unhappily, we've run out of time, which is probably my fault, so that you win full prize by default. We could have had a lot of fun with this, particularly, I think, with you, Fred, because Mrs. Weinreb is a wig designer and maker. Thank you very much, madam. Lovely to have you in. Thanks a lot.
On the next.
And now, until next week, this is John Daly saying good night, Miss Dorothy.
Good night, Fred.
Good night, Marjorie Morningstar.
Thank you, dear. Have a good time in Cincinnati and Detroit, and good night, Bennett.
Next time, get a Random House order, John. Good night.
I knew I was going to get in trouble tonight. Good night, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for being with us on What's My Line?